Thank you, Acting Speaker, and it's great to see you in the chair. And I miss our little chats from over on the benches over there about different things that go on within the world, in particular the football world. But I rise to speak on the Victorian Police Amendment Police Reservists Bill 2026. And as I commence, I just want to extend my thanks and appreciation to all our VicPol members for the great work that they do under very trying circumstances, and in particular this year when they've had, last year when they've had some really tragic events occur within their membership. And so I just want to extend my appreciation, but also to the PSOs and the PSOs that protect us here around this precinct. Their work is amazing, and I thank them very much. Of course, this is a practical, sensible and forward-looking reform that will help Victoria Police do what Victorians expect them to do every day and keep our communities safe. And that's the fundamental reason for this reservist bill. And at its heart, the bill is about highly trained police officers spending more and more time out there policing throughout our communities and less time sitting behind a desk doing administration and administrative duties. And of course, when people call 000, when they need police assistance and when they see a crime or an antisocial behaviour in their neighbourhoods, they would expect and want police officers to respond to them as soon as possible. And of course, they expect VicPol members to be out on patrol and visible in the communities, preventing crime and protecting public safety. But of course, it's not always the way, and many police officers currently spend a significant portion of their hours of work undertaking administrative and non-operational duties within the police stations, behind the desk, dealing with, as we say, non-operational, what we would say non-operational things. But of course, some people within the general community expect police officers to be behind a desk when they rock up at a police station. Of course, those duties are important and they're necessary for effective functioning of Victoria Police, but do they need to be done by operational frontline members? Possibly not. Of course, it's tying up frontline members. And Victoria Police told us that currently police officers spend more than 4,000 hours every single day behind reception counters or desks in police stations across the state. And that's the equivalent of 500 8-hour shifts per day every day of the year. And if you translate those 500 shifts from behind a desk out onto the road, out policing within the community, that will make an enormous impact on any potential crime. And just being out there and being visible would be amazing. And as I say, those hours could be put to greater use rather than be stuck behind a desk. And as we say, they could be used for responding to the calls, in particular the 000 calls. And that's exactly what this bill is trying to achieve. And look, recently I attended a community police forum out at Melton, and it was a great forum, attended by many community members. And of course, again, the police informed us that domestic and family violence was the biggest crime that they attend to. I think it's probably taking up at 2 or 3 out of 4 cases that they attend to would be domestic and family violence. And of course, we know that has a relationship to youth crime. And I think, we've got to think broader than just more policing and harsher penalties and things like that. This is a community issue, and it's really got to come back to families and community. We're not just going to be able to police our way out of youth crime and other crime. It's also about how the community addresses it, at the local level, through families and things like that. And unfortunately, some of that youth crime is caused by those families where those kids have seen domestic and family violence under the roof of their house, or some of those kids can't even go home to their home because of that very reason. So these are the things that we've got to address, just not by policing, but by the community getting involved and dealing with those sorts of things and reporting domestic and family violence and any other crime. Of course, this bill establishes a modern fit-for-purpose police reservist scheme that will provide additional administrative and operational support to Victoria Police and free up frontline officers to focus on frontline policing, and it's a practical solution to a practical challenge. Victoria has previously operated a reservist model under earlier legislation. I think it was referred to by the member from Thomastown, who said it was in during the years of at least 2010-14, I think by the previous coalition government. So we know reservists can play an important role in supporting police operations, and we know that it can reduce administrative pressures on frontline members. And of course, it makes it a better use of the resources. And again, talking to the Police Commissioner this morning at the TAC event that was in the building, Mike Bush, it reintroduces the power for the Chief Commissioner to appoint police reservists and establishes that legislative framework necessary to support a contemporary reservist program, and that's what this bill will do. And he was just speaking about, it supports the Chief Commissioner's vision of, getting more police officers out from behind the desk and into our communities. And I believe that was a model that he introduced in New Zealand when he was over there as the Commissioner. And we were talking about this legislation, and he told me of the need for more cops to be on the front line and how important it was to free them up from that backroom work so they can police and be out there and be more visible, which is a great idea, and that's all what we want to see happen, and obviously reduce any type of crime. It's not just youth crime, it's all types of crime. And unfortunately, we see organised crime exploiting young members of our communities at the moment, and we've got to get on top of that also. I did also speak to him about the advocacy and getting a new station in my area, Cobblebank, and I've previously put in a couple of bids for that. Unfortunately, I've not been successful, but I'll continue to mention it because I think with the enormous growth in corridors like Melton and Wyndham, these are some of the services that we'll need and plan for well in advance of that population growing. And I can see some members looking at me and with their ears pricked and saying probably the same thing in my area too. But anyway, but it's something that we've really got to consider and plan for. And I'm sure VicPol do that, and I'm sure the Commissioner will do that. But I know in Melton it's going to have, increase its population by another 200,000 over the next 20 years. So it'll go to 450,000, and between Melton and Wyndham by 2045 there'll be a million people, which will be 1/10 of the Victorian population. So police resourcing is a key issue for us and it's a very young community. I think average age will be 32, 33. So it's a very young, diverse community. So these are the things that we've got to think about in regard to dealing with our community members. And it's not just about crime. It's, police do other great work, not just dealing with criminals. It will be great to see some of these reservists come in, and I'm hopeful that we'll get some in Melton to deal with, to allow the frontline members to get out there and undertake the work that the frontline members do in many, many different ways. And I just want to go to, there was a recent, I'll come to it in a minute in my notes, but there was a recent event in Melton where the police concentrated on an event dealing with vehicle issues, stolen cars and things like that. And I think they call it Operation Momentum. Of course, I can't find it when I need to find it. But they laid so many charges, and I think they recovered something like 50 stolen vehicles. I think there was over 100 charges, something like that. And it was a really successful campaign that they ran out at Melton, and a dedicated campaign. And again, this is another example where you can have reservists come into a police station and be able to do that administrative and desk work and allow the frontline members to get out there. Yeah, it was called Operation Momentum. 180 arrests since it was launched. It happened throughout Brimbank and Melton, and it was started in March, I believe, and 180 arrests, 750 charges, and located some 50 stolen cars. So these are the types of things that VicPol members can concentrate on when they have the reservists be able to release them from being stuck behind a desk and allow the reservists to do that administrative work and allow the operational members to get out there. And I know it'll be bringing back some very experienced former members, and we thank them for putting their hand up and expressing an interest to come back and come back into the fold of supporting our operational members. And I'm pleased to see that we've had such high numbers of expressions of interest. This is an important bill and I commend it to the House.